Welcome back everyone. Now this is the continuation of our for loops. So we have already discussed about what is a for loop, what are loops, how to execute loops and why do we need loops. Now before jumping into nested loops, I want to show you quick about a very important function that we have in Python, that is the range function. Range function is used to get a range of values. If you want a sequence of numbers, then range function is the thing that you are going to use. Probably you're not going to use for loops. It's going to take a lot of time to execute. The easiest way will be to use a range function that will return you a sequence of number that by default starts from 0, but yes, you can change that, and it will increment by 1. Again, you can mention the step size also, so it will stop before a specified number. So make one thing in note, that by default it starts from 0, it increments by 1 and stops before a specified number. So it is an inclusive range. Now let's look at the syntax of it. So it's quite easy. We just have to mention the keyword range, start, stop and step. We are going to start initially from 0. By default it is 0. If you don't want to mention start, it's completely fine. You can just mention stop and it will be also working just fine. So let's mention it starts from 0 and it ends at 11. Okay, right now I'm not writing anything in step, so what will happen is it will create all the numbers from 0 1 till 10, not 11, as it is an inclusive range. We are not going to take the higher limit 11, so always one less than the stop, whichever you have mentioned. And what exactly is step is used when you want to take a jump. So let's mention from 0 start is 0, stop is 11 and step is 2. So it will be taking 2 step sizes. So let's say I have 0 1 2 3 4 till 10. Okay, not writing all the numbers. So from 0 it will jump once, twice. Then from 2 it will jump once, twice, 4. So it will be something, the end result will be 0 2 4 6 8 and 10. So that's all about start, stop and step. Now let's have a look into nested loops. Nested loops. From the name itself, if we are going to mention any place nested in our future class sections, then nested loop is a loop inside a loop. The meaning of nested is one inside the other. If we use anything in our past sections, we believe we have started with the nested list. So it was a list inside a list. So whenever I use the keyword nested, just make a note of it, that what I mean is one inside the other. So nested loop is one loop inside the other loop, one for loop inside the other loop. So the inner loop will be executed one time for each iteration of outer loop. So let's say in outer loop you have 1 2 3, in inner loop you have 4 5 6. So 4 5 6 will be executed for each iteration of the outer loop. So for 1 there will be 4 5 6, for 2 there will be 4 5 6, for 3 it will be 4 5 6. So the inner loop will be executed for each iteration of the outer loop. Now this is one of the examples of nested loops. I have two objects, that is one adjective, red, big, tasty, and then fruits, one more list, another object. So what I have done is for x in ADG, for y in fruits, print x comma y. So it will be red, then apple, banana, cherry. So red apple, red banana, red cherry. So it will be for all the three things. Same thing for big. It will be big apple, big banana, big cherry, then tasty apple, tasty banana, tasty cherry. Now let's go. Let's just jump into Jupyter Notebook and get a bit of hands-on experience on whatever we have learned as of now. Now, before jumping into our range function and nested loop, a very quick thing I want to show you is how you can use else in for loop. So let's say for char, I'm going to take out one of the old codes that we have written out. For char in, I'm going to take a string hello, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to print char. So it's going to print out hello, Let's say after this, when the condition is broken off, or if the condition is not true, out of loop. So it's going to print out of loop. So that is how you can use an else block. Okay, for char and hello, print char. So all the things will be iterated. After all the things have been iterated, it will just move into the else block and print that you are out of a loop. Now let's jump into our range function. So we have range. Now the general syntax was start, stop, and step size. Okay, so this was the general syntax of our range function. Now we are going to execute them up. So let's take the example of this. So I have list, and inside of this list I'm going to write range, and in this range I'm going to mention my start. So let's start from 0 and 11. Okay, right now I'm not going to mention the step size. So let's look what happens. So I'm getting all the numbers from 0 to 10, as this is an inclusive range, so I am not taking the higher limit. So what exactly it returns is, let's take 0 and 11. So it returns me a range of 0 and 11. So if I want to convert it to a list, that is, I will be doing a type conversion. Now what happens if we take in step size? So let's say, so I'm getting all the 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, all the even numbers in this. Now let's add it out in a for loop. So for, I'm going to take I in range. So let's take, by default I can just write 11. By default it takes 0, so I will be just mentioning out the end limit and then print I. So it will be taking all the value. So from range function it will be first taking 0, assign it to I, print I, then 1, assign it to I, print I, 1, then 2, then 3, similarly till 10. Okay, by default itself you can just write the end limit and that will be enough. Okay, because in default it will be taking out 0. So that is one of the examples, or quite the usage of range function. We are going to use this a lot when we solve next problem from some different topics. Now let's look into what is a nested function or nested loops. So I am having two lists, that is my uh, let's say my numbers. I'm gonna have 1 2 3, and then let's say fruits. Inside this I will be having banana, cherry, and then the last thing that I'm gonna have, let's take mango. I have two lists, that is my numbers and fruits. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create first of all an outer loop, that is for num in my numbers. Now moving into the next part, I'm gonna take for fruit in fruits, and then print num comma fruit. So now what will happen over here is, before executing up, let's check it out. So as I have told you that the inner loop will be executed for each iteration of the outer loop. So in the outer loop I have 1 2 3. So for 1 it will be the inner loop, that is all the fruit names will be executed. Okay, so banana, cherry and mango will be iterated for 1. For 2 again all the three things will be executed again for 3. So I can see that 1 banana, 1 cherry, 1 mango, 2 banana, 2 cherry, 2 mango, 3 banana, 3 cherry, 3 mango. That is how inside for loop or nested for loop works. Now that's it for this session. We have already looked into a lot of things. We have covered out a lot of new topics. Now in our next video we are going to cover out with while loops. We are going to look into what is a while loop, how to execute it, and what is the importance of it, and how different it is from our normal for loops.